So they weren't nervous. And so, and once I got to the point where I wasn't nervous anymore or scared or anything like that, and I was ready to play, we just went on a roll. We didn't look at anybody as being, I didn't see Michael as Michael now. He was just Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
He was Sam Perkins. Yeah, they're all Americans. They get notoriety, but they were just, they put their pants on the same way. That's how we looked at it. And we beat them. So it wasn't like, they were just coming in there beating us by 40, 50 points. I've beaten Mike in college. So I just never looked at it, like anything other than, he's a player, I'm a player.
And you're one of the very few people that give Michael Jordan his credit, but you, in my opinion, you look at things with perspective. Everybody else gives the toes the company line. Hey, he walks on water, he can walk on the water and not get wet and things of that nature.
I'm not going to knock him. He's a great player, but, again, man. M-A-N.
Exactly. Now, I want to ask two questions. Best player in college you played against, and the guy in college you played against that you may wonder, how did he not make it?
Well, I'm going to give you the answer, and it's, unfortunately, we all know the reason. The best player that I played against in college is Len Bias. And to answer the second part of the question, he died. And unfortunately, if he hadn't died, and I've said this recently, if Len Bias does not die after getting drafted by the Celtics, I do not believe Michael Jordan becomes who he is. That's how good this guy was. That's how good Len Bias was. Jumps out the gym, handles the ball, can shoot the ball out to three-point line. Way bigger, stronger, faster than Michael Jordan ever was. Way better shooter than Michael was. He was the best player that I have seen. He was the best player in our conference, one of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country. He was that good. He already had a pro body. He didn't have to do anything other than just to do his thing. He didn't have to gain weight. He already had it all. And so once he died, it opened the door up. That's one less person, people have to worry about. I always, it's analogous to Tupac and Biggie dying. Once they got out once they were out, all of a sudden everybody's a rapper.
Right.
Everybody can rap now.
DMX and Jay-Z may not even be who they are today.
Of course not. Jay-Z was not going to try and mess with Biggie and all them guys, not to go on a tangent, but I'm just saying, them dying opened it up for everybody else. And same thing with Len Bias. Him dying, it really created a vacuum, and it's like now all of a sudden, Mike became Mike. All these other players, started doing their thing. But Len Bias would have been in that same conversation of one of the greatest ever.
He'd have been winning immediately with the '86 Celtics. So that's a whole other
thing. And he got drafted by the Celtics, so that means he's playing with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. Oh my Lord!
Woo. Yeah,
man.
And then Reggie Lewis off the bench, Brian Shaw, and that would have been scary, man.
Hey, that would have been
scary.
He was a transformational guy. He would have changed the game. He really would have. He was built he was basically LeBron James. What we see now in LeBron, 6'8", 260, that was Len Bias, 6'8", 240. Just cock strong. But again, he had a better jump shot than anybody would name it.
Wow. I remember, back then, TV, we could only see you guys sparingly. One of the benefits is living in Chicago, we got to see more than most, but we still didn't get to see what we see now. Later on, you had the Big Mondays and the Super Tuesdays and things that way. But it would have been nice to see Len Bias I do remember seeing him in games, cutting the lane and just dunking on everybody and smiling a lot. He seemed very engaging. It would have been awesome to see.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you're right. Not a lot of people got a chance to see him outside the ACC, but let me tell you something, man. I will take this one with me. He's one of the best I've ever seen. And I'm talking about then and there. I'm not talking about like, like all these guys became great players. No, he was already a great player, about to be a superstar.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Okay, well, let's remove Len Bias. Is it another guy that could have been that wasn't, or another big time guy that you watched and is like, hey, this guy has?
The guy replaced Ralph Sampson.
Oh wow, I forgot about it.
And I think Ralph made it to Hall of Fame, but Ralph was like the second coming. I mean, I don't know if anybody was better, but the injuries, people forget that they beat the Lakers 4-1.
Yeah.
They were like, if he doesn't get hurt, there's no real Showtime anymore because he puts an end to that. Magic Johnson's whole career changes because no one was going to be able to stop them. If he's a healthy Ralph Sampson with Hakeem Olajuwon, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
And
the thing about that is people forget. Everybody loves to laud over the stretch fours and the big guys that can handle the ball. Ralph was doing that in the mid-'80s.
Ralph was the guy. Ralph was doing this thing way before. He was ahead of his time. He was way ahead of his time. He was handing that ball at 7'4", and everybody said, no, you get down in the post. No, he saw that 20, 30 years ago. He was already doing it. Now it's the norm.
Exactly.
He was definitely ahead of the game.
Even on this show, I have people telling me, I know, we've never seen anything like this. I'm like, nah, I actually seen Ralph Sampson lead a break.
Same thing with Steph Curry. I've already seen Steph Curry twice. Come on now. We've had people like that. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson. Come on now.
Exactly. That dude. And then people don't even identify his athletic ability. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was winning dunk contests at the same time, shooting the lights out the gym.
That's what I'm saying. We all prisoners of the moment. No disrespect to Steph or anybody else. I love Steph. I think he's awesome. He's come a long way from Davidson. He's done a lot more with less than a lot of people. So I respect him for what he's done. But I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as new. We have recycled, but we don't have new. There's no such thing. Somebody's already done it.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that because, again, that's why I wanted you on the show and other people like you so we can talk about the guys. Nobody talks about Ricky Pierce. Nobody talks about Sidney Moncrief. Nobody talks about these guys. And even in the college game, we've forgotten how good Danny Manning was.
Man, injuries changed that career. Ricky Pierce was maybe one of the coldest shooters I've ever seen. I played with Ricky and I played against him. I like playing with him a lot better.
Yeah, man. I remember him heating up Jordan plenty nights at the old Chicago Stadium. That dude was unstoppable, man.
Oh,
he
man.
Was pulling up. He was open from the bus.
He was open with the minute he stepped on the court.
Yeah. And like you said, we keep saying, we've never seen anything like this. Yes, we have. I remember Glenn Rice leaving college. We've seen great shooters before.
Dale Ellis. I played with Dale Ellis. Dale Ellis could shoot near half court.
Wow.
He shot a regular jump shot near half court.
Wow. And that's another guy that's unsung. Nobody talks about Dale Ellis, man. That dude was, and then just imagine if somehow, some way, the Mavericks would have got their act together. They had Dale Ellis on the bench with Marcus Wyatt, Rolando Blackman, Derek Harper, Roy Topley. That was insane, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. And the funny thing about it, you bring that up, but it's little things that keep you from being great. It's just little things. A guy like Roy Topley, we called him 20/20 vision because that was his thing, 20 points, 20 rebounds. You expected that every night. Better rebounder than Rodman was, a better player. But because of his drug issues, the career went sideways. But he changes the game if he doesn't, partake in those activities. Definitely changes, what basketball is. We've had a lot of those guys, The guy I mentioned earlier, Joe Hammond. Can you imagine if Joe Hammond ended up going to the NBA instead of remaining on the streets dealing drugs? This guy, no one could stop him. No one. Man. It didn't matter who came to the park. No one could defend this guy.
Yeah. I've seen things on Calvin Hines. I've seen things like, what's the guy? Lloyd Daniels.
Oh, Sweet Pea, another one. Yeah. Drugs and everything else. I mean, that was another talent. But, and it goes to show, you have to really walk a fine line if you want to be great. There's certain things you just can't do. You might want to do it, but you can't do it because it takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your body, on your mind. So it's tough. And so a lot of people have thrown away great careers or great potential for a great career, and it's sad sometimes.
I don't want to stay in a dark place, but I do want to ask these questions. Was it a heavy drug culture in the mid-'80s with the NBA?
Yes, the NBA had a major drug problem, and it's unfortunate, but that's how it was. There were a ton of guys that I knew personally. Even when I was in college, I had teammates that were partaking. It's unfortunate. I was so focused on being good and trying to be the best I could be. I grew up in New York in the middle of all that the drug craze, and never got involved because I knew two things certainly. My dad and my mom would kill me a lot faster than any drug could.
Hey, trust and believe, man. Chris Rock said that once. He's like, ain't nothing more terrifying than I'm going to tell your father. And what me is I'm going to tell your mom.
I was good. So I'm like, I don't need to get involved. But, yeah, we did have it. We had, George Gervin and those guys, scoring 60, 70 points while high.
Wow.
And then it went from heavy drugs, and then the league cleaned it up, and then it became, weed and all that stuff. So, I don't judge people, but, I just tell them, hey, if you're going to do something, man, you just got to balance everything out, man. Is it really worth it?
Wow, that's crazy. That is definitely something that you don't hear about, and people usually keep, I've heard those stories of George Gervin. I've heard things like David Thompson falling down the stairs at Studio 54 and ruining his career, things like that. But for whatever reason, why don't you think, I look at basketball, and I remember wanting to be you guys. I remember wanting to be George Gervin. I remember wanting to be Magic Johnson, yelling out names on the basketball court. Why is it that the NBA, this is my opinion, maybe it's wrong, but in my opinion, the NBA does a piss-poor job of highlighting the past. Like, I know who Harry Aaron is and Dave Parker and all those guys and anybody else from old baseball or anybody from old football. It seems like the NBA pretends that basketball started in 1979 with Bird and Magic. And you just drug in Dr. J and Kareem, but who was Rick Barry? Who was Dave Bean? Who was Moses Malone? Like before the show started, me and you were talking about Moses Malone died, and the average NBA fan, who was that? Carl Malone daddy? It's like, what do you mean? Who was Moses Malone? What's going on with the NBA in the past, man?
It's the old adage. It's like, what have you done for me lately? They're specific about who they promote from the past. Like, they will definitely give love to Bill Russell, of course, the great Bill Russell. Certain players, Oscar Robertson. But, again, it's the same thing that we were talking about. They only promote the top guys. One guy does not make the league. Everybody had a hand in this big cloth that's called the NBA. Like when we were talking, I said, the analogy that I use is, there's this big chair, beautiful chair, that is Michael Jordan, Kobe, Shaq, Bill Russell, whomever you want it to be. But Oden Polynice and all these other guys, we might be the little glue that you put there, or the peg over here, or the screw over here, or the nail over here that holds it together. And we're just as important as the finished product, which is the chair. And so